Government agencies could spend as much as $173 billion through multiple award contracts by the end of this fiscal year. And that may only be a preview of what's to come. Paul Murphy, Senior Data Analyst for Government Contracts at Bloomberg Government. Paul, welcome. It's good to see you again. What stands out most to you about the work that you've done on MAX?
Well, a number of things. One is that the spending is robust. It keeps going up. Another is that 1 out of every 4 contract dollars is now spent on a multiple award contract. The count of MAX, the number of MAX contracts is up 26% in the last several years. I think the most surprising thing that came out of our analysis this year was that as MAX spending has been going up, the number of large businesses receiving MAX went up, but the number of small businesses actually went down. The number of contracts went up, the number of recipients went down. And we like to, when we do this kind of analysis, we like to look for these divergences, these kind of interesting trends going in opposite directions. And this is definitely one of them. And I think it feeds into a discussion, a broader discussion about what's happening, across the entire federal government with regard to contract consolidation.
What is your sense of what's driving that, Paul?
Well, there's a number of things. One is, I think we're kind of on the tail end of the withdrawal of military forces from the Middle East. So that has continued to play a role for the last several years. But I think there's also been a lot of mergers and acquisitions, of course. But I think there's a lot going on in terms of the increased emphasis on efficiency and category management and the drive to consolidate contracts for efficiency purposes. There's increased sophistication in the kind of work that the government expects contractors to perform. There's CMMC certifications, there's ISO certifications, FedRAMP certifications. The work is getting more complex in order to confront a lot of these threats that we're perceiving with cybersecurity and national security.
The number that you put together that struck me, that resonated with me the most, fiscal 2020 DoD spending, $92 billion, outpaced civilian agencies, $67 billion. Is DoD overusing these MAX? Are the civilian agencies underutilizing them, or am I just thinking about it wrong, Paul?
No, I think DoD is a good example of a company that's trying to move toward the category management contracting goals. They have these teams in place in the different agencies to advocate for what's called spend under management, and DoD has been responding. A lot of their contracts now are moving into a consolidated offerings. You have the ITES contracts, but also just generally their increased use of the GSA schedule of OASIS. Seaport NG is ramping up, and they're also ramping up use of. They're finally starting to convert over to enterprise infrastructure, the new telecommunications contract. So we're seeing DoD moving ahead with these OMB and GSA initiatives. And
this is going to accelerate, it looks like, from the research that you've done, Paul. You're right, 15 MAC opportunities have an estimated total value between $175 and $193 billion. It's only going to get bigger, isn't it?
Well, the spending will get bigger. What's interesting is that some of these opportunities are actually representing consolidations of contracts. You have, BICMAC is going to consolidate, OASIS and HCATS and BMO. And you have Polaris that's going to consolidate Alliant. And you have the consolidation of CIO SP3 and SP3 small business into CIO SP4. So they're at the very highest levels of this kind of contracting, multiple award contracting, there's actually some consolidation. But then you have agencies like USAID that's bucking the trend, and they're splitting this big global logistics supply chain requirement into 10 different contracts. So, but I think overall we're going to see an increase in spending. The actual number of contracts may moderate and could even decline depending on how spending goes. But with this budget and the proposed increases in infrastructure spending, max spending that we expect is going to be pretty robust.
What does that mean for the companies that are trying to get pieces of that business, Paul?
What it looks like is that particularly small businesses, if they're not going to be able to get a toe in the door, if they're going to be facing hurdles, certification hurdles, past performance hurdles, that they're going to have to be looking toward teaming and subcontracting. At the same time, some agencies like NITAC over at HHS, they offices like NITAC at HHS, they are actually, it appears, kind of restricting the terms and conditions under which companies can team for CIO-SP4. So there's a lot of concern. They just put out an amendment last week. There's a lot of concern about the conditions they're imposing and whether they're too restrictive.
Paul, thanks very much for coming on. It's great to have you back.
Francis, always good to see you.